Hi, everyone. I am Bruce Halsted with We Want More, and welcome to week one of Everyday Parenting plus Faith. And I'll be adding the faith aspect here along with the discussion groups as we look in the ABCs of child rearing, the antecedents, the behaviors, and the consequences of child rearing. And hopefully, you had a chance to dive into the videos. I think they're excellent. And hopefully, you've also watched Cindy's video in the email that you received from Kim. That's my wife, Cindy, to kind of give an overview. One of the things we like about this course is that it's very specific, concrete, and researched in terms of the things you need to do. And at We Want More, we focus more on God's heart, the Father's heart, how shame operates, the relational aspects and the emotional aspects of God, along with the spiritual and the biblical lens. But to have specific concrete steps, I'll tell you, I wish I had this, and Cindy does too. 20 years ago, we would have saved ourselves and our kids a lot of pain. We did read a lot of books, but it wasn't as clear, crystal clear as this. And so hopefully the clarity of the course and the discussions and some of the faith aspect we add will help gentle our conditions and how we parent and love our kids well. I want to bring three things to bear to discuss over the next 9 more minutes here. And that is praise, negative settings, and identity. The first two are directly related to the course, and the third is more of our focus with We Want More. But weren't you surprised that praise was the first video? And I loved what he talked about, and I affirm that. It's based on kind of strength-based parenting and positive affirmations, which we all need. But praise is a consequence. So I thought he'd start with the beginning, but he actually starts with a consequence. And I loved it for several reasons, but primarily because when I think of the Old Testament and I think of Scripture, the Israelites, whenever they went out to battle, they were always being led by the worshipers who were praising God. And I thought, you know what, it's perfect for us because we need to be aware that God's got our kids. We just to be praising him, thanking him, and worshiping God in the midst of parenting, because parenting can feel like a battle and a struggle many times. And it depends on the age, some in adolescence, some in high school, but some struggle with their 2 and 3-year-olds and say, how do I deal with them during their time that they're testing their boundaries? And so it can be a struggle and a battle. So what I like about what Dr. Kasdan is doing is he's basically saying with the praise, focus on catching them doing something good and affirm them. And the second part is then also create and practice and look for different behaviors. So set up your antecedents, go for that behavior, and then positively affirm them with effusive response and even a touch, a loving touch. And the two things I see in this in particular is that doesn't every person need positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement? I grew up with more shame-based reinforcement versus affirmation. But as believers, we're called to learn how to really love well. And I think that it's way harder to love others as we love ourselves and love God. It's way harder than we think. And I think parenting is one of the biggest tests on it. When it says to train up the child in the way they should go in Proverbs 22:6, and when he's old, he will not depart far from it. This training process is what this course is all about. But it's the loving training. I think there are several books that we read that were very firm and controlling about how to deal with your kids. And I'm looking back now, like, where's the gentleness? Where was the kindness? Where was the patience? Where's the affection? Where was seeing their precious and tender little hearts and all of that? So we missed some of that. So again, I'm grateful for this course. The second point touches on belief, and the idea, the positive focus and the praise focus is actually believing in our kids and that God's got their stories. If you think about the three most important things, God says it's faith, hope, and love, love being the main. But faith and hope are about belief. Believe in not seeing what we're seeing. And when I think of that, I think of Gideon. You know, an angel shows up and says to Gideon, "Oh, mighty warrior." And what scripture shows right there is that's far from who Gideon is. He is hiding. He's from the weakest tribe and the smallest clan, or vice versa. He's from the weakest clan and smallest tribe. And but what happens with Gideon is God says, "This is who I see you as." And I think as parents, that's kind of what we need to do is, I see you as amazing. I see your future. I believe in you because you're representing our, as parents, we represent God to them more than any other person, especially in the beginning years. And we're the ones giving them the positive, accepting environment that cultivates their capacity to know themselves, to experience love, and to say, I'm enough, I'm okay. Because the assault is on them, and shame's voice says, you're not enough and you're not okay. And that's what the garden and the fall brought in. And so kids have to learn how to put on fig leaves and pose and posture, and they'll either perform or rebel for acceptance. And we want to show them, no, you're enough. I accept you because you're mine, and I adore you and I love you. So anyway, Cindy, I totally wish I could have done that for my kids. We praise them a ton, but pretty inconsistently. And one thing I realized with my responses, whenever I would respond in anger or control, it had nothing to do with trying to help my kids with better behavior or they're shaping their hearts. It had much more to do with my fear, because I was afraid that they would make the mistakes that I made. And I wanted to save them from that. And I was trying to control their destinies and their journeys. And only God has that. And it's really in grace, along with the truth and the principles we'll learn here over time, that our kids grow and learn how to accept who they are and become fully the wholesome, amazing kids we want them to be. So our job is to increasingly do that for our kids. The challenge is most of us were raised in shame-based families, and that's my second point, negative settings. He shows it's very clear from research that critique, that anger, that harsh words and harsh tones, that cabooses, remember the caboose or the sarcasms? The caboose is the, well, great job. If only you could do that every time. Or you say, if I've told you once, I've told you 1,000 times. You know, all of those things actually inhibit their growth. They inhibit positive behaviors. They actually create resistance. And what we do know is they're actually creating shame. They're saying, you're not enough. Because the kids interpret the behavior. They can't tell the difference between their behavior and themselves, and they're hearing, you're not enough. You don't have enough to handle it. And so their precious little hearts, instead of being affirmed and accepted and bolstered and strengthened, are actually being attacked. And you know, some of the things I say, if I look back, you know, I was emotionally abusing my kids. I hate to admit that, but anytime you yell at a kid, it is kind of abuse. And so I think that's where Cindy and I want to get us to the point of saying, where's affirmation? Where is seeking and looking for what we can draw out from them? Every one of our kids is a mighty warrior, but they have a unique identity. What is it that we can bring out of them? And that takes me to my third point, which is identity. Because we're fearfully and wonderfully made. A new favorite author of mine is Dr. David Benner, and he talks about God's love. He loves us with an absorbed interest, and it embraces us and delights in us, forgives us, cares for us. He is so for us, we can't possibly comprehend it. That's almost the imagine more than you can possibly ever believe or hope or dare. That's God's affections for us. He can't not love us. And I think the thing is, when God came into this world incarnationally as Jesus to connect with us, to show us relationship and love, which he talks about in John 15 and John 17 as friendship and loving intimacy. When he came down to that world, he came from infinite down to the finite. And I think what God's trying to ask us to do as parents is to say, Slow down in all your harriedness and your hurriedness and your busyness and the important things you're doing. Slow down and incarnationally move down into your child's small world and see them. Connect to their hearts, understand them, validate them, let them know they're enough. And when they make mistakes, they get grace and a retry, because love is patient, love is kind, love is gentle. And so those are some of the things we're hoping we can talk about, along with the antecedents behaviors, and we'll learn more about consequences in the weeks to come. But I'm grateful you all joined us in this process. Hopefully this interface of faith and these concrete steps will be helpful in your parenting. Until later, God bless you.